must also educate ourselves. One of the things that we talked about in the labor workshop was one of the things that we tried to do, and we started doing it, I think, a couple of years ago in the Women's Fight Back movement and the International Working Women's Day. We are fortunate, and I say fortunate, that we live in a very multinational city in New York City. I think we have every nation represented in New York City. And therefore, we also see the struggles of many of the people from all around the globe. So when we have International Working Women's Day, we make sure that the sheroes from every country is represented with a huge picture and that people understand what the sacrifices were of those people. Because we must learn from each other. There is no one group of people that has a monopoly on anything. Not of pain or not in terms of revolution. Not in terms of history and legacy or struggle. There's no place in the world wherever there is a repression, the rule is that there's always going to be resistance. So everybody has a militant history of struggle, revolutionary history. We must learn from those and learn the lessons and apply them to today, the lessons that work. And one thing that clearly is consistent is that the ruling classes across the world never change their tactics that work to keep their foot on our necks. They never change it. Divide and conquer, demoralizing people psychologically to make them think that they cannot fight back or that they should identify with the ruling class. We, on the other hand, don't understand sometimes that the things that worked in the past are not passé. They are not things that we don't need to look at. They are things that we need to learn from. And there are examples that are occurring right here under our nose. I look at the Guadeloupe people. I've never been to Guadeloupe. I've never been to Martinique. But the fact that they could shut down their country impressed me. And how did they shut down? They just said, I'm not going to work. And they fought against not just wages, they also fought against racism. They fought for women's issues. They fought for child care. They fought for social services, and they fought for their dignity. This was not 100 years ago. This was just recently that they did that. The Guadeloupe women, the Honduras women, they all took a stand in the streets, letting their issues be known. Of course, the bourgeois press didn't want a lot of us to know about that, but those of us who have connections in the movement, we knew about it and we tried to get that out, because people really have an erroneous view that those kind of actions don't mean anything, or if they do them, let's have a demonstration on Saturday. Ain't nobody in the street on Saturday in Washington. No, the people that we need to deal with are not in Washington. Let's go to Wall Street on Saturday. No, when you have a militant action like we did in 2006 with the May Day, International Working People's Day, the workers who came out there were the workers who made the least amount of money, didn't have benefits, didn't have a paid day off, didn't have vacation time, so they actually went on strike to show up on that May Day. From all over the city, they showed up. The ones who could least afford to showed up. But in 2006, that particular May Day, to me, was the most impressive, because who was out there? Not just the Chicanos by themselves, but who was out there was also African sisters and brothers, Caribbean sisters and brothers, Filipino sisters and brothers, Chinese sisters and brothers, out there strong, millions of people across the country standing up. Our failure is, after you have those dynamic marches and you bring everybody together, what do you do next? What do we do next? And that's the question that confronts a lot of social justice movements. And some of us have it twisted. When you're organizing marches, we become event planners. We don't become movement builders. When we organize workers, we act like politicians. You kiss the babies, go to everybody's house, sign up cards, make these mappings and all this other stuff, and then the workers just become dues payers. They don't have a say in the union. They're not encouraged to come. I know in my union, they were on strike, and we organized the daycare workers to come and ask a very serious question. They wanted to know. They were asking us, why is it that we're going back in and ending our strike when the other workers are still on strike who united with us? Why don't we stay out? They came to the union hall, 300 strong daycare workers, and this male leader of our union was furious and wanted to know why were they at the union hall. Their union hall that they paid the rent for. Their union hall where they elected leaders to truly represent their interests. Their union hall where they have the right to sit down and discuss this very important issue. So we need to look at that because we do all the right things when we're planning an event. We do all the right things when we're organizing workers. We do all the right things when we're organizing tenants and migrants and domestic workers and other people, day laborers. We do all the right things to do that. And we do all the right things to have a conference like this. What do we do after we leave this hall? That's what we need to ask. Don't drop this. Don't do that. That's not what we're supposed to do. Our minds as revolutionaries, your minds have to constantly be thinking of as problem solvers. So how do we implement all the things that we learned? How do we let people back home know about the migrant workers? How do we let people know about the domestic workers? We are already thinking about how do we connect the united domestic workers in New York City with the other domestic workers if they're not already connected. Because the thing that they fear the most, the imperialists, is for us all to get together and come with the same understanding. They are fearful of that. We need to make them afraid and keep them afraid until we win our demands and to win the kind of society that we all deserve. We cannot leave here and just think about exchanging papers. We must leave here and think about what information did we get? Who did we meet? What organizations can we connect to build and strengthen what we're doing at home? And most importantly, how do we share this with sisters that are toiling on the grounds every day, that needs to be inspired, who needs to have their backbone strengthened, and who needs to know that there are people fighting and winning some things. We have to convince people of that. And the only way we convince them is giving them live situations as well as historical situations, because the historical situations are part of the summed up experience of our class. It's not just something that somebody wrote about. It's really the summation of the struggles and the resistance of that struggle.